Santo, a great American in whose symbolic shadows we stand signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon, light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who have been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of captivity.
But 100 years later, we must face the tragic fact that the Negro is still not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the minds of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languishing in the corners of American society and finds himself an exile in his own land. So we have come here today to dramatize an appealing condition. In a sense, we have come to our nation's capital to cash a check. We, the architects of our republic, wrote the magnificent words of Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. They were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall. Here, this note was a promise that all men would be guaranteed in inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious that today the America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of the color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a back check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. So we have come to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of the freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in luxury of cooling, or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of the segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to open the doors of opportunity to all of God's children. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. It will be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment and to underestimate the determination of the Negro. This sweltering summer of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not uncontent will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. There will be neither rest for tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his citizen rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundation of our nature until the bright day of the justice emerges. But there is something that I must say to my people who stand to the warm there holds which leads into the place of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protests of degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to majestic heights of meeting physical force with the soul force. the marvelous new militancy many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny, and their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone. And as we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall march ahead. We cannot turn back. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when you will be satisfied. We can never be satisfied as long as our body, heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways and the hotels of the cities. We cannot be satisfied as long the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and the Negro in New York believes that he has nothing for which to vote. No, no. We are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. I am not unmindful that some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. Of some of you have come fresh from narrow cells. Some of you have come from areas where you quest of freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. You have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi. Go back to Alabama. Go back to Georgia. Go back to Louisiana. Go back to slums and ghettos for northern cities, knowing that somewhere this situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friends, that in spite of the difficulties and frustration of the moment, I still have a dream. It's a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of this creed. We hold this truth to believe evidence that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, her sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day even the state of the Mississippi, a desert state, sweltering with the heart of injustice and oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream. My 4 children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream today. One day, the state of Alabama, whose governor lives thing representing dripping with the words of interpretation and nullification, will be transformed in a situation where the little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls, walk together as their brothers and sisters. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain made low, the rough places will be made plain, and cracked places will be made straight. The glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This will be the day when all God's children will be able to sing with a new meaning, my country. Ties of peace, sweet land of liberty, of peace I sing, land where my fathers died. Land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountains let the freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. So let the freedom ring of the produce, hilltops of New Hampshire, let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of the New York. Let the freedom ring of the hiding Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let the freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let the freedom ring of the Carbonaceous Peaks of California. But not only that, let the freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let the freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let the freedom ring from every hill and every molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let the freedom ring. When we let the freedom ring, we will let it ring from every village of every hamlet, from every state of every city. We will be able to speed up the day when all God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, of Protestants, of Catholics, will be able to join hands and to sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, free are at last. Thank you. By Martin Luther King, Jr., August 28, 1963. Thank you.